Every single person on this earth is trying to be happy. The problem with chasing happiness is that happiness alone is transient. It comes and then it goes. But there's something bigger than happiness, something that not only brings happiness, but also is a stable source of contentment. What I am talking about is meaning in life. Rain or shine, birth or death, meaning in life stands unmoved. Meaning in life is like the machinery that produces happiness as a byproduct. But it doesn't just produce happiness. It also produces contentment. And contentment is a more subtle but long-lasting form of positive emotion. In this video, I'm going to focus on meaning in life because meaning in life sits at the core of happiness. I am going to discuss 6 scientifically researched sources of meaning in people's lives. After discussing each source, I'm going to provide you with some suggestions that will allow you to tap into each source more fully. My hope is that this video will not only educate, but provide you with a tangible direction. As you listen to my presentation, please keep in mind that the sources of life's meaning identified by the researchers are not exhaustive. These are the sources of life's meaning that scientists have identified so far, and there's probably more. Perhaps you have ideas of your own, and if you do, be sure to share them in the comment section with the rest of us. You never know. The few seconds you take to share your idea on the meaning in life might actually save someone. Meaning in life, or purpose, is so important that it can affect every aspect of our lives. Having a meaningful life is associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease, lower mortality, lower age-related cognitive decline, lower risk of Alzheimer's disease, lower rates of burnout, higher social appeal, higher net worth, lower incidence of psychological disorders, lower risk of physical disability, and be less likely to self-delete. And please forgive me for using that term. I have to kind of skirt around YouTube's rules and regulations. They don't like certain words. In a UK national survey, they found that reports of higher meaning in life were associated with faster walking speeds, which suggests physical health, better social connections, better employment outcomes, lower alcohol use, and lower risk of divorce. Pretty good, huh? That's not all. Interestingly, having meaning in life even predicts our likelihood of surviving an illness. Another study done on Americans over the age of 50 who had coronary heart disease found that those who rated their lives as more purposeful were less likely to experience myocardial infarction. Those are like heart attacks over a 2-year period. This is just amazing. It's pretty clear that meaning is absolutely essential to a long, happy, and healthy life. The first thing that we have to understand is what meaning in life really is. Meaning in life is composed of 3 different aspects. These 3 aspects are comprehension or coherence, significance, and purpose. Comprehension/coherence refers to whether or not your life makes sense. The more predictable our lives are, the more coherent they become. And researchers are finding that the more coherent people's lives are, the more meaningful they are also. However, coherence doesn't just refer to whether our present life makes sense. It also refers to whether our past makes sense to us as well. If something doesn't make sense, then it cannot be predicted. And so if I cannot make sense of my past, then I cannot predict my future. And if I cannot predict my future, then how can I even begin to plan a life for my future? And if I cannot plan for the future, how will I feel about my future? Most likely, I'll feel that my future is out of my control, which means that I'll have anxiety. And I'll possibly feel hopeless, which means I might have depression. This is why it's so important that we can make sense of our past and present. Coherence answers the question of, does my life make sense? Significance refers to whether you feel like you have a meaningful and lasting impact on your environment. It entails the degree to which a person believes his or her life has value, worth, and importance. It answers the question of, do I matter? We want to know that we matter to our friends, to our coworkers, and to our family. We want to know that our actions in this world have an impact. Experiencing low levels of significance predict depression, and it may contribute to violent behavior. It's easy to understand how a lack of significance can cause us to feel sad and depressed. But interestingly, a lack of significance may also lead people to behave in antisocial and dangerous ways, in violent ways. It may cause them to act out of desperation in order to show others that they matter. Something called significance quest theory argues that some terrorist attacks were motivated by feelings of insignificance and the desire to have a lasting impact on the world. Purpose is the third and final component of meaning in life. Arguably, it is also the most important one. Purpose refers to having goals and direction in life. Purpose gives us resiliency in the face of adverse situation and a sense of contentment and satisfaction in life. Studies also show that people who live purposeful lives also keep health problems at bay for longer. Purpose answers the question of, what am I supposed to do on this earth? I once heard a story, and I forget where I heard it, but it stuck with me because it spoke so directly to the importance of life's purpose. The story goes something like this. An anthropologist was studying a primitive society where people lived for a really, really long time. One of the things they wanted to figure out was why they lived for so long. There, the researcher observed an elderly man chopping wood. This man must have been in his late 60s or maybe even early 70s. The researcher was shocked that he was doing such hard physical labor. So he asked him, "Why are you doing such hard labor? Isn't that too much for someone your age?" And the elderly man answered him with a question. "If I don't do it, then who will?" This man's village wasn't very large and depended on him to chop wood. If he didn't chop wood, then people wouldn't be able to cook or eat or stay warm. This stuck with me because it so clearly demonstrated exactly what researchers are finding about purpose. It somehow delays the onset of health problems that otherwise cripple most of us in the modern world as we age. So it would seem that having meaning in life is incredibly important. So now, finally, let's talk about the different ways of increasing meaning in our lives. The premise of this entire video is that meaning in life creates happiness. So the first one that we'll cover will probably annoy some people because it creates this chicken or the egg type of situation. It turns out that simply being happy increases life's meaning. Studies are showing that not only is there a correlational relationship between happiness and meaning in life, but also a causational one. When researchers made people happier by playing a happy song or asking people to recall a happy story, they found that their meaning in life increased. As a therapist, I've worked with people who are unhappy, depressed, and struggling to find meaning in life. And in my professional opinion, the reason why positive mood enhances meaning in life is because becoming more positive allows us to see the world through a different lens. It allows us to see what we can't see when we're in a funk. Moods filter our perception. They prime us to see things that justify our feelings. So when we're anxious, we perceive anxiety-provoking things more easily. When we're depressed, we perceive things that support our reasons to be depressed. And when we're happy, we have an easier time seeing all the reasons for why we should be happy. The same thing happens with meaning in life. When we're feeling bad, it's hard to see the good in life. On the other hand, when we're in a good mood, we have an easier time seeing and appreciating what's already in front of us. Our moods change, but the reality that we live in doesn't. It's just that having a positive affect simply allows us to see what's already there. The takeaway here is this. If you want to nurture happiness so that you have an easier time developing meaning in your life, then something I recommend is that you actively practice paying attention to the small, pleasurable things in life. In other words, practice gratitude. Be grateful for the little things every single day of your life. And perhaps most importantly, be in awe at the miracle of life. A lack of meaning in life is often present during existential crises. Often when people enter an existential crisis and they start seeing life as pointless, they zoom out in life. We'll often hear them say something like, "If you look at the big picture, I can't do anything. I'm insignificant. How small am I compared to the universe? How helpless am I in light of all the mega rich and powerful families, presidents, and celebrities?" On the other hand, people who are happy and have meaning in life, they zoom in on life. When you talk to these people, they'll talk to you about the little things in life. They'll say something like, "You won't believe how large my basil plant grew." Or they might say, "Man, I did great in chess yesterday. I kicked everyone's butt." Another way of putting this is to say that a happy and meaningful life is lived through a microscope, while a depressed and meaningless life is lived through a telescope. Having social connections is not only one of the most important predictors of our psychological well-being, but also it is often a requirement to finding meaning in one's life. The reason why social connections are so important is because we oftentimes find meaning in our existence in relation to other people. As we discussed earlier, something becomes meaningful because it is significant. And who determines significance? People. So we need people for our lives to be significant. This is why we often hear wise men and women say that purpose in life can be found through service to others. Because when you serve others, you become very important to them. You become very significant. One study looked at people's diary entries and found that having positive social interactions predicted meaning in life very strongly. Another study found that the more people felt that they had a positive impact on others, that they were beneficial to others, the more meaningful their lives felt. The takeaway here is twofold. First, a person searching for happiness and meaning needs to focus on creating quality connections with other people. If you consider yourself to be spiritual, then the best recommendation I can give you is for you to start regularly attending some form of religious group practice. I'm talking about things like churches, synagogues, mosques, or temples. Religious practice and church attendance satisfies multiple sources of life's meaning, not just social connections, which is why this is my number one recommendation. If you aren't spiritual, then I'd recommend that you join some kind of a social club, join a sport, dance classes, hiking groups, pursue romantic relationships, anything and everything to build satisfying connections. Secondly, when searching for meaning in one's life, when searching for your purpose, a shortcut might be to look at only the things that are in service of other people. You might want to ask yourself, how do I want to help other people? How do I want to become important to them? So it turns out that religious practice powerfully contributes to life's meaning because it satisfies many of the different avenues through which we derive life's meaning from. We were just talking about the importance of social connections. Church attendance creates social connections because we typically attend church with other people. Church attendance also has the potential to increase our sense of significance because oftentimes churches ask for volunteers, and the longer a person volunteers, the more the entire church gets to know them and depend on them. Religion also helps with coherence, or making sense of why things are the way they are, by providing a framework through which to understand life's events. Lastly, religious doctrine helps people feel purposeful by helping them make sense of their thoughts and behaviors in relation to a much bigger context than themselves, in relation to God. In other words, from the religious point of view, there is no greater purpose in life than to serve God. The takeaway here is that religiosity is a powerful tool, and anyone who is seeking life's meaning and happiness would do very well to start here, given, of course, that they have spiritual interests. You might have heard the quote, "Know thyself." It turns out that knowing oneself goes hand in hand with having a purpose in life. This is partly because to know yourself is to have a coherent life story. How can you know who you are without understanding where you came from? So knowing oneself automatically means that one of the three aspects of life's meaning is present: coherence, which refers to understanding why things are the way they are. Similarly, many studies demonstrated a strong relationship between behaving authentically and meaning in life. When we behave authentically, we are then honest with ourselves. When we are honest with ourselves, we have an easier time understanding ourselves, and therefore understanding our own purpose in life. The takeaway here is to start being brutally honest with yourself so that you can understand yourself. This can be a painful process, which is why it's simultaneously very important to be mercilessly accepting of yourself. No matter how awful something might appear to you, trust that this is all part of the human experience and that thousands of people before you have had the same exact thing. You are human, and that's all right. Another important takeaway is to craft a narrative that makes you feel okay with how you got to where you are today. Understand your past and how it led to your present. Be brutally honest, but be kind to yourself. Do not punish yourself with a story that you craft. It also turns out that the more capable we are of projecting ourselves into the future, the more meaning we feel in our lives. This is essentially daydreaming. Daydreaming about a goal or status in life that we one day hope to achieve. However, our daydreams of the future must tie the past, the present, and the future all together. You know how we just spoke about the importance of knowing oneself? Well, mental time travel builds off of that. Daydreaming about the future or mental time travel is all about future goal setting. Our daydreams of the future must feel solid, grounded in our very real past and present. In other words, our daydreams are best when they are realistic to us. Mental time travel must write a narrative, a story of where you came from, explain why you are where you are right now, and how the present will lead into the future. That's coherence. The takeaway here is for you to allow yourself to indulge in daydreaming. However, be mindful that your daydreams are born out of a solid understanding of who you are. A good daydream that actually benefits you, that motivates you, that provides you with purpose and drive is one that naturally evolved from the story of where you came from and where you are right now. A question that you can ask yourself to see if your daydream is a good one is this: if my life was a movie, does the story of this movie make sense so far? If the answer is yes, then that's very good. The next question you might want to ask yourself then is this: do my daydreams of the future, my hopes of where this movie will eventually go, does that fit the story that was told so far? Or do my hopes and dreams seem like they belong to a completely different movie? If your answer is that your hopes and dreams belong to the same movie, then you're doing the right thing. But if not, then you might want to revisit your narrative or your daydreams to make sure that it is all coherent. For some, becoming aware of their own mortality will make them say to themselves, wait a minute, as far as I know, I only get one life. Why am I wasting my precious time doing all this crap? I should be doing something that I love. This is exactly what researchers have observed. The most dramatic example of that is with people who had a near-death experience. These individuals often say that they find the pursuit of their goals more rewarding, and that their goals are more often motivated by intrinsic rewards as opposed to extrinsic rewards. Intrinsic rewards are things that aren't material in nature. It's not stuff that you can touch. An example of that is feeling proud when you accomplish something, or the warmth you might feel after you've helped someone and saw their appreciation. On the other hand, an example of an extrinsic reward is when you do things for money. Overall, these individuals report having more meaning in their lives compared to before they had their near-death experience. Now, the takeaway. I'm not saying that everyone should go out there and try to have a near-death experience. That probably won't turn out too well for most people, so let's not do that. Instead, if this source of life's meaning speaks to you, what I would suggest is that you start meditating, contemplating on the impermanence of one's life. Think about how precious our moment on this earth is, and how we have one chance to do something awesome, to do something meaningful. And if you feel anxiety over your own mortality, then use it. Use it to fuel the pursuit of your goals. This turning of your anxiety into a drive is a known phenomenon, and most people do it to some degree. It's called sublimation. Sublimation is a healthy and an advanced adaptation to, well, life. So there you have it. These 6 traits have shown to be the most predictive of life's meaning. But I am sure these are not the only things that help develop meaning. So tell me, what are your thoughts on this? Please don't be shy about sharing your thoughts. You could actually change somebody's life just by taking a few seconds to share just a little bit about yours. I hope you enjoyed this. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.